She wasn't supposed to still be breathing when they found her. Lena lay sprawled in the mud at the base of the ravine, rain hammering her broken body like 1,000 tiny fists. Her ribs screamed with every shallow breath. Blood mixed with rainwater, painting the earth beneath her in diluted crimson. Above, through the canopy of twisted branches, she could barely make out the edge of the cliff she'd been thrown from. Not fallen, thrown. The memory was sharp, vicious, her alpha's hands on her shoulders, the cold finality in his eyes, the words that had sealed her fate. You bring us nothing but shame. Then the push, the sickening lurch of empty air, the brutal impact that should have killed her. She tried to move her fingers. Pain lanced up her arm, white-hot and blinding. Something was broken. Maybe everything. Her wolf whimpered inside her, a pitiful sound that made Lena want to weep. Even her animal spirit had given up. 3 days ago, she had stood before her pack at the Harvest Moon Gathering, the final ceremony where unmated wolves were claimed. She had worn her mother's ceremonial shawl, the one passed down through 4 generations of strong she-wolves. She had stood tall, chin up, hope burning in her chest like a fragile flame. No one had called her name. Not a single male had stepped forward. The silence had been absolute, crushing, worse than any blow. In a pack where your worth was measured by the bond you secured, she had been declared worthless. A genetic dead end, a blight on her family's honor. Her father had stopped looking at her that night. Her mother had wept, but not for Lena, for herself. For the shame of raising a daughter no wolf wanted. For 3 days, Lena had been invisible, a ghost haunting the edges of pack gatherings. The younger wolves whispered. The elders averted their eyes. Even the children seemed to sense her taint, giving her a wide berth as if rejection were contagious. Then this morning, Alpha Donovan had summoned her to the eastern cliffs. Private. Urgent. She had gone, some desperate part of her hoping he would offer guidance, or mercy, or at least an explanation. Instead, he had offered death. You are a stain on this pack, he had said, his voice flat, businesslike. Your continued presence weakens us. Understand that this is not cruelty. This is duty. He hadn't even had the decency to make it look like an accident in front of witnesses. He had simply walked her to the edge and pushed. Lena coughed, tasting copper. Rain filled her mouth. She turned her head, letting it spill out, and stared at the dark wall of trees surrounding the ravine. This was wild land, beyond pack borders, the kind of place where rogues roamed and predators hunted. If the fall didn't kill her, the wilderness would. Her eyes drifted closed. Maybe that was for the best. Maybe dying here, alone in the rain, was better than crawling back to a pack that had already buried her in their hearts. The sound of footsteps made her eyes snap open. Not 1 set, 3, heavy, deliberate, moving through the underbrush with the confidence of apex predators. Lena's heart lurched. Her damaged wolf tried to rise to warn her, but there was nowhere to run. She couldn't even sit up. The footsteps stopped. Silence, thick and suffocating. Then a voice, low and rough, carved from stone and shadow. Well, what do we have here? Lena forced her head to turn, her neck muscles protesting with sharp, stabbing pain. Through the curtain of rain, she saw them. 3 massive wolves emerged from the tree line, their eyes glowing in the dim light. Not the familiar amber of her pack. These eyes burned. One set molten gold, another ice blue, the third a deep, unsettling green. They were enormous, bigger than any wolf she had ever seen, their shoulders broad, their movements predatory and synchronized. They circled her slowly, 3 points of a triangle, cutting off any hope of escape. Fear flooded her system, cold and primal. These were not pack wolves. These were something else, something dangerous. The wolves stopped moving. The air shimmered, and where 3 beasts had stood, 3 men now loomed. Brothers. She could see it in the sharp angles of their faces, the similar builds, the way they moved in perfect, unsettling harmony. But each was distinct. The first was the largest, his hair black as midnight, his bare chest crisscrossed with scars that spoke of survival. His golden eyes burned with intensity, studying her like a puzzle he intended to solve. Authority radiated from him like heat from a forge. The second was leaner, his build more predatory, his dark brown hair falling into those ice-blue eyes that seemed to strip away every defense. His expression was cold, calculating, but something flickered beneath it. Curiosity, maybe, or hunger. The third was younger, wilder, his auburn hair damp from the rain, his green eyes blazing with barely restrained violence. His hands clenched and unclenched at his sides, as if resisting the urge to shift back into his wolf form and finish what her alpha had started. "She's dying," the youngest said, his voice sharp with something that sounded almost like anger. "She's not dead yet," the middle one corrected, crouching beside her. He reached out, his fingers hovering over her broken ribs without touching. His nostrils flared as he inhaled deeply. Omega, unmated, and fresh blood that's not from the fall. His ice-blue gaze snapped to the cliff above them, then back to her face. Someone threw her. The oldest brother, the one with the golden eyes, stepped closer. He knelt in the mud beside her, utterly unbothered by the rain soaking through his clothes. When he reached out, Lena flinched, but she couldn't move away. His hand was warm against her rain-chilled skin. He cupped her jaw gently, tilting her face toward his. The touch was careful, reverent almost, completely at odds with the brutal strength she could feel thrumming beneath his skin. "Who did this to you?" His voice was quiet, but it vibrated through her chest like distant thunder. Lena tried to speak. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Her throat was too raw, her body too broken. "It doesn't matter who," the youngest growled, pacing like a caged animal. "Look at her, Damon. She's been rejected, cast out. They tried to kill her." The name registered. Damon, the eldest. His golden eyes never left her face. "What's your name, little wolf?" he asked softly. "Lena," she managed, the word barely a whisper. "Lena," he repeated, as if tasting it. His thumb stroked her cheekbone, wiping away a mixture of rain and tears she hadn't realized were falling. "I'm Damon. This is Cade." He gestured to the middle brother. "And that's Riker, the youngest." She didn't care about their names. She just wanted the pain to stop. "Please," she breathed, "just let me die." The effect was immediate and violent. Riker snarled, the sound purely animal. Cade's ice-blue eyes flashed dangerously, and Damon's expression hardened into something absolutely uncompromising. "No," Damon said, his voice carrying the weight of an alpha command. He slid his arms beneath her, lifting her as if she weighed nothing. Her body protested, pain exploding through every nerve, but his grip was secure, unyielding. She was pressed against his chest, his heartbeat strong and steady beneath her ear. "You don't get to die, Lena," he murmured against her hair. "Not today. Not ever. Because you're ours now." Cade moved to Damon's side, his hand coming to rest on her forehead. His touch was cooler than Damon's, clinical almost, but his eyes burned. "We're taking her home." Riker's growl softened into something else, something possessive. They threw away a gift, their loss. Lena's vision was fading, darkness creeping in at the edges, but she heard Damon's next words, felt them settle into her bones like an unbreakable vow. "You were rejected by wolves who couldn't see your worth. But we see you, Lena. And what we claim, we keep." The world went black, but for the first time in 3 days, she wasn't falling into emptiness. She was being carried into something else entirely. Warmth was the first thing Lena registered. Not the cold bite of rain or the unforgiving mud of the ravine, but true warmth, enveloping her like a cocoon. Her eyes fluttered open to firelight dancing across rough-hewn wooden beams. She was lying on something soft, furs piled thick beneath her body. The air smelled of burning cedar, leather, and something else, something wild and masculine that made her wolf stir for the first time since the fall. Pain came next, duller now, but still present. Her ribs ached with every breath, and when she tried to shift her weight, Her body protested with sharp reminders of her injuries. "Don't move." The voice came from her left. She turned her head carefully and found Cade sitting in a chair beside the bed, his ice-blue eyes fixed on her with unsettling intensity. He held a clay bowl in one hand, steam rising from whatever liquid it contained. "Your ribs are fractured, 3 of them. Your left ankle was sprained, and you had a concussion." His tone was clinical, detached, as if he were reciting a list rather than describing her near-death experience. "You've been unconscious for 2 days." 2 days. Lena's throat tightened. She should be dead. Alpha Donovan had made sure of that. And yet here she was, warm and alive in a place she didn't recognize, with a man who looked at her like she was a problem he was determined to solve. "Where am I?" Her voice came out hoarse, barely more than a rasp. "Our territory, the Thornridge Mountains." Cade set the bowl on a small table and leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. "You're in our den. Safe." Safe. The word felt foreign, dangerous even. She had learned the hard way that safety was an illusion, a trap. Why? The question escaped before she could stop it. "Why did you bring me here?" Cade's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those cold eyes. "Drink this." He picked up the bowl and held it toward her. "It'll help with the pain." Lena stared at the offering, suspicion coiling tight in her chest. She didn't know these men, didn't know what they wanted from her. In her experience, no one did anything without expecting something in return. "It's not poisoned," Cade said dryly, reading her hesitation. "If we wanted you dead, we would have left you in that ravine." The logic was sound, but it did nothing to ease the knot of fear in her stomach. Still, the pain was becoming unbearable, a constant throb that made it hard to think. Slowly, she reached for the bowl with trembling fingers. Cade's hand closed over hers, steadying her grip. His skin was warm, his touch firm but not rough. The contact sent a jolt through her system, something electric and unfamiliar that made her wolf perk up with sudden, startling interest. She froze. So did he. For a heartbeat, they simply stared at each other, the bowl forgotten between them. His nostrils flared slightly, his pupils dilating. She watched his jaw tighten, a muscle ticking beneath the surface. "Drink," he said again, but his voice had changed. Rougher, strained. Lena lifted the bowl to her lips, her hands shaking. The liquid was bitter, herbal, but warmth spread through her chest immediately, dulling the sharp edges of pain. She drank it all, desperate for relief, and when she lowered the bowl, Cade was still watching her, studying her. "What?" she whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, he took the bowl from her hands and set it aside. His movements careful, controlled. "You need to rest. Your body is still healing." "That's not what I asked." Cade's ice-blue eyes locked onto hers, and for the first time, she saw something beneath that cold exterior, something heated and barely restrained. "Your scent," he said quietly. "It's different." Lena's breath caught. Scent was everything to wolves. It told stories of lineage, health, emotion, compatibility. And hers had always been weak, muted, barely there. Her pack had whispered about it, another mark of her inadequacy. Different how, she managed. Before Cade could answer, the door swung open. Riker strode in, his green eyes immediately finding her on the bed. Relief flashed across his face, quickly replaced by something fiercer. "She's awake." It wasn't a question. He crossed the room in 3 long strides, dropping into a crouch beside the bed. His hand reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead with surprising gentleness. The moment his fingers touched her skin, the air in the room changed. It was like lightning striking twice in the same spot, that same electric current, but stronger now, more insistent. Riker's eyes widened, his hand freezing against her temple. His nostrils flared as he inhaled sharply. "Do you feel that?" His voice was rough, almost awed. Cade stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the wooden floor. Riker. But Riker wasn't listening. He leaned closer, his face inches from Lena's, his eyes searching hers with an intensity that made her heart race. "What are you?" "I'm nobody," Lena whispered, the words automatic, ingrained from years of being told exactly that. "No." Riker's hand moved to cup her cheek, his thumb tracing the curve of her jaw. "You're not nobody. You're ours." The third voice made them all turn. Damon stood in the doorway, his golden eyes blazing in the firelight. He looked larger somehow, his presence filling the room, commanding attention without effort. He moved toward the bed with slow, deliberate steps, his gaze never leaving Lena's face. When he reached her, he knelt, bringing himself to her eye level. Riker shifted to make room, but didn't release her, his hand still cradling her face. "How do you feel?" Damon asked, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through her chest. "Confused," Lena admitted. Her heart was pounding now, her wolf circling restlessly inside her, drawn to these three men in a way that terrified her. "I don't understand what's happening." Damon reached out, his hand settling on her shoulder, a grounding weight. "You're healing. That's what matters." "That's not what I mean." She looked between the three of them, these brutal strangers who had saved her life, who were touching her with a reverence she had never experienced. "Why are you looking at me like that?" The brothers exchanged glances, some silent conversation passing between them. It was Cade who finally spoke, his clinical detachment cracking just slightly. "Your scent. It's calling to us." Lena's stomach dropped. "That's impossible. My scent is weak. It's always been weak. That's part of why no one—" She stopped, the words catching in her throat. "Why no one wanted you." "There's nothing weak about it," Riker growled, his green eyes flashing. "It's driving me insane." Damon's hand tightened on her shoulder, not painfully, but possessively. "In our world, Lena, a wolf's scent speaks to compatibility, to potential bonds, what we're scenting from you." He paused, his golden eyes darkening. "It's mate scent." The word hit her like a physical blow. Mate. Impossible. "No," she breathed, shaking her head. The movement made her ribs ache, but she barely noticed. "That can't be right. I was rejected. No one wanted me. I can't be anyone's mate." "Your pack was blind," Cade said coldly. "Weak wolves who couldn't recognize strength when it was standing in front of them." "I'm not strong," Lena protested, her voice breaking. "I'm broken. I'm nothing." Damon's other hand came up to frame her face, forcing her to meet his burning gaze. "You survived a fall that should have killed you. You survived being cast out, rejected, thrown away like garbage. And you're still here, still breathing, still fighting." His voice dropped to a whisper, intimate and absolute. "That's not nothing, Lena. That's everything." Riker's hand slid to the back of her neck, his fingers tangling gently in her hair. "We don't claim the weak. We never have." "Then why?" The question came out as a plea. "Why me?" The three brothers looked at each other again, and when Damon spoke, his words carried the weight of an unbreakable vow. "Because the moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. Your pack rejected you because they couldn't handle what you are. But we can." His thumb stroked her cheekbone. "We will." Cade moved closer, his ice blue eyes intense. 3 alphas. 1 mate. It's rare, but it happens. And when it does, the bond is unbreakable. Lena's mind reeled. This couldn't be happening. She had spent her entire life being unwanted, and now 3 of the most dangerous-looking men she had ever seen were telling her she was theirs. "I don't even know you," she whispered. "You will," Riker promised, his voice rough with barely contained emotion. Damon leaned forward, his forehead nearly touching hers. "We won't rush you, we won't force you, but understand this, little wolf." His eyes burned into hers. "You are under our protection now. What your pack threw away, we treasure, and we don't let go of what's ours." The scent in the room intensified, 3 distinct but complementary signatures wrapping around her like invisible threads: cedar and storm from Damon, ice and steel from Cade. wild honey and smoke from Riker, and beneath it all, her own scent rising to meet theirs, strengthening in their presence, blooming like a flower that had finally found the sun. Her wolf, silent and broken for so long, lifted its head and howled with something that felt dangerously close to hope. Lena pulled back from Damon's touch as if burned, ignoring the protest of her injured ribs. The three brothers remained close, their presence overwhelming, suffocating. She pressed herself against the headboard, putting as much distance between them as the bed would allow. "No!" The word came out stronger than she expected. "This is insane. You don't know me. I don't know you. You can't just decide I'm your mate because of some scent." Riker's jaw tightened, his green eyes flashing with frustration. "It's not a decision. It's recognition." "There's a difference. I don't care about the difference." Lena's hands fisted in the furs beneath her. 3 days ago, I stood in front of my entire pack, and no one wanted me, not one wolf. And now you're telling me that 3 alphas, 3 brothers, all want to claim me? She laughed, the sound brittle and sharp. "This is some kind of trick, or a trap, or maybe I actually died in that ravine, and this is just a fever dream before the end." Cade's expression remained unreadable, but something flickered in those ice-blue eyes. Hurt, maybe, though it vanished too quickly for her to be sure. "This is real, Lena, whether you believe it or not." "Then you're mistaken," she insisted, her voice trembling. "Your instincts are wrong. I can't be what you think I am." Damon stood slowly, his massive frame casting shadows across the bed. He didn't move closer, but his golden eyes held her captive. "Why is it so hard for you to believe you're worthy of being chosen?" The question hit too close to the wound, raw and bleeding. "Because I'm not," Lena whispered. "Everyone I've ever known told me so. My alpha, my pack. Even my own parents couldn't look at me after the rejection ceremony." Her voice cracked. "If I was worthy, someone would have wanted me before you found me broken in the mud. Your pack was wrong." Riker's hands clenched at his sides. Every single one of them. "Were they?" Lena shot back, anger flaring hot in her chest. "Or are you 3 just desperate enough to claim a dying wolf you found in the woods? Maybe any unmated female would do, and I just happened to be convenient." The temperature in the room dropped. Cade stood in one fluid motion, his movements controlled but radiating barely leashed violence. "Careful, little wolf." But it was Damon who spoke, his voice quiet and all the more dangerous for it. "If we wanted convenient, we would have left you to die. If we wanted just any female, we've had opportunities. Unmated she-wolves have approached us for years." His eyes burned into hers. "We turned them all away, every single one, because they weren't you. You didn't even know I existed until 2 days ago. And yet, here we are." Damon took a single step closer. "Your scent called to us from half a mile away, drew us to that ravine like a beacon. When I saw you lying there, broken and bleeding, something inside me snapped into place." He pressed his fist against his chest. "Here, a certainty I've never felt before." Riker moved to Damon's side, his green eyes fierce. "Do you think we wanted this? 3 alphas sharing one mate? It's complicated, it's dangerous. It goes against every territorial instinct we have." His voice roughened. "But the moment I caught your scent, my wolf recognized you. And I don't fight what my wolf knows to be true." Cade remained where he stood, arms crossed, his ice-blue eyes never leaving her face. "You're afraid. That's understandable. You've been conditioned to see yourself as less than you are. But fear doesn't change facts." His voice softened, just barely. "You're our mate. The bond is forming whether you accept it or not." Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. She could feel it, that pull toward them, invisible threads tugging at something deep inside her. It terrified her more than the fall had, more than dying alone in the rain. Because what if they were right? What if she let herself believe, let herself hope, and they changed their minds? What if they rejected her too? "I can't do this," she said, her voice breaking. I can't be what you want me to be. I'm not strong enough. I'm not enough. Damon closed the distance between them in 2 strides, dropping to his knees beside the bed. His hand reached for hers, and this time she didn't pull away. His palm was warm, calloused, completely engulfing her smaller hand. Then let us be strong for you, he said quietly, until you remember how to be strong for yourself. Tears burned at the back of Lena's eyes. She wanted to believe him, wanted to believe all of them, but belief was a luxury she couldn't afford. Not when it would destroy her if she was wrong. I don't want this, she whispered, knowing it was a lie the moment the words left her lips. Riker flinched as if she'd struck him. Cade's expression went carefully blank, but Damon held her gaze, his thumb stroking across her knuckles. Yes, you do, he said softly. You're just afraid to want it. There's a difference. Lena pulled her hand free, wrapping her arms around herself. Please, just let me heal and I'll leave. I won't be your problem anymore. You're not a problem. Riker's voice was strained. You're our mate. I'm nothing. The words exploded out of her, raw and jagged. I'm the wolf nobody wanted. The failure, the shame. You're alphas. You should have someone strong, someone perfect, not a broken Omega who couldn't even manage to die properly when her own alpha tried to kill her. Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. Then Damon spoke, his voice low and edged with barely contained fury. If your former alpha ever comes within a mile of our territory, I will tear his throat out and leave his corpse for the scavengers. The casual brutality of the statement should have frightened her. Instead, something dark and satisfied stirred in her chest. Cade moved closer, his ice-blue eyes blazing. You want to know what we see when we look at you? We see a wolf who survived attempted murder, who clawed her way through rejection and kept breathing when she had every reason to give up. His voice dropped. We see strength that your pack was too blind to recognize. We see our mate, Riker added, his green eyes intense. Perfect, exactly as you are. Lena shook her head, tears finally spilling over. You don't understand. I spent my whole life being invisible, being less than. And now you're asking me to believe I'm suddenly worth something? That I'm worth 3 alphas? She laughed bitterly. I can't make that leap. Damon stood, his expression softening into something almost tender. We're not asking you to make it alone. We'll wait, however long it takes. But we won't let you run, Cade added firmly. Not until you're healed. Not until you're strong enough to make that choice with a clear head. And maybe not even then, Riker muttered, earning sharp looks from both his brothers. Lena wiped at her tears with shaking hands. So I'm a prisoner. You're protected, Damon corrected. There's a difference. It doesn't feel different. It will. He moved toward the door, his brothers following, but he paused at the threshold, looking back at her. Your old pack taught you that your worth is determined by who claims you. We're going to teach you something different. His golden eyes held hers. Your worth exists whether we claim you or not, but we're claiming you anyway, because we choose to, because you're ours. I'm not yours, Lena said, but her voice lacked conviction. Riker smiled, sharp and dangerous. Keep telling yourself that, little wolf. Maybe eventually you'll believe it. The 3 brothers left, the door closing softly behind them, but their scents lingered, wrapping around her, burrowing into her skin. Cedar and storm, ice and steel, wild honey and smoke. Lena curled onto her side, her broken ribs protesting, and pressed her face into the furs. They smelled like the brothers, like safety and danger, and everything she'd ever wanted, but never dared to dream of having. Her wolf stirred inside her, restless and yearning. Traitor, Lena thought bitterly, but her wolf only pressed closer to the surface, chasing those 3 scents like a starving animal finally offered food. And deep down, in a place Lena refused to acknowledge, she knew the truth. She was already theirs. She just wasn't ready to admit it yet. 3 days passed in a strange, suspended reality. Lena remained in the den, her body healing with a speed that surprised her. The herbal teas Cade brought morning and evening dulled the worst of the pain, and by the fourth day, she could sit up without gasping, could move without feeling like her ribs were full of shattered glass. But healing her body was easier than healing her mind. The brothers never left her alone for long. One of them was always nearby. A constant presence that felt both protective and suffocating. Damon brought her meals, setting them on the small table beside her bed with quiet efficiency. Riker changed the bandages on her ankle with surprising gentleness, his hand steady despite the barely restrained energy that seemed to vibrate beneath his skin. Cade monitored her injuries with clinical precision, checking her ribs, her reflexes, her temperature. They were careful not to touch her more than necessary. She told herself she was grateful for the distance, told herself she didn't miss the warmth of their hands, the electric current that passed between them whenever skin met skin. She was a terrible liar. On the fifth morning, Lena woke to find Riker sitting cross-legged on the floor beside her bed, sharpening a wicked-looking blade. Sunlight streamed through the single window, catching the auburn highlights in his dark hair. He looked up when she stirred, his green eyes immediately alert. "Morning," he said, his voice rough with sleep. "Did you sleep there?" Lena asked, pushing herself into a sitting position. The movement was easier now, almost painless. Riker shrugged, returning his attention to the blade. "Someone needs to watch over you." "I'm not going to die in my sleep." "Maybe not, but you were whimpering last night. Nightmares." His jaw tightened. "Couldn't just leave you alone with those." Heat flooded Lena's cheeks. She didn't remember the nightmares, but she could guess their content. The fall, her alpha's cold eyes, the crushing weight of rejection. "I'm fine," she said automatically. "You're a terrible liar." Riker set the blade aside and stood in one fluid motion. "Come on, you've been in this bed for 5 days. Time to move." "Move where?" "Anywhere. Your muscles are going to atrophy if you don't use them." He held out his hand. "I'll help you." Lena stared at his outstretched palm, warring with herself. She didn't want to need his help, didn't want to feel the jolt of contact she knew would come the moment she touched him. But she was so tired of being confined to this bed. Slowly she reached out and placed her hand in his. The connection was immediate, electric. Riker's fingers closed around hers, warm and strong, and his eyes darkened as his nostrils flared. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Then he pulled her gently to her feet, his other hand coming to rest on her waist to steady her. "Easy," he murmured. "Take your time." Lena's legs trembled, weak from disuse, but Riker's grip was secure. She took one tentative step, then another. Pain flared in her ankle, duller now but still present. "Good," Riker encouraged, moving with her. "You're doing good, little wolf." They made a slow circuit of the room, Riker's hand never leaving her waist. By the time they completed one full lap, Lena was breathing hard, sweat beading on her forehead. But there was something satisfying about the exertion, about proving to herself that she could still move, still function. "Enough for now," Riker said, guiding her back to the bed. But instead of releasing her, he helped her settle against the headboard and sat beside her, his thigh pressing against hers. "You're stronger than you think." "I don't feel strong." "Strength isn't about feeling, it's about doing." His green eyes studied her face. "You keep pushing through pain. Keep fighting even when you don't want to. That's strength." Lena looked down at their hands, still joined. "Why do you care?" "Because you're ours." Riker said it simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "And we protect what's ours. I never agreed to be yours. Your scent did." Riker lifted their joined hands, pressing his nose to her wrist and inhaling deeply. His eyes closed, and a low, satisfied rumble built in his chest. "You can fight it all you want, Lena, but your wolf knows the truth." As if in response, her wolf stirred, pressing against the edges of her consciousness, wanting, yearning. The door opened, and Cade entered carrying a bundle of fresh bandages, He stopped when he saw them, his ice-blue eyes flicking between Lena and Riker's joined hands. "She's moving," Riker said before Cade could speak. "Building strength back." "Good." Cade set the bandages on the table and approached the bed. "Let me check your ribs." Lena tensed, but Riker squeezed her hand gently before releasing it and standing. "I'll give you privacy." "Stay," Cade said quietly. "She might be more comfortable with you here." The fact that he was right annoyed Lena more than it should have. Riker's presence did make her feel safer, even though that made no sense. These men were still strangers, still dangerous, still making her feel things she had no business feeling. Cade waited until Riker settled back beside her, then moved closer. "I need to touch you. Just to check the healing. Is that all right?" The fact that he asked, that he waited for her permission, loosened something tight in Lena's chest. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Cade's hands were clinical as they skimmed over her ribs, applying gentle pressure to test for pain. But even his careful, professional touch sent sparks across her skin. She watched his face, the concentration there, the slight furrow between his brows. "The fractures are healing well," he said after a moment. "Another week and you should be almost back to normal." His eyes met hers. "You heal fast. Is that unusual? For a wolf who was as badly injured as you were?" "Yes." Something shifted in his expression. The mate bond accelerates healing, even before it's fully formed. Lena's breath caught. "So this is proof? That we're actually mates," Riker finished, his voice rough. "Yes." Before Lena could respond, the door opened again. Damon entered, his massive frame filling the doorway. His golden eyes swept the room, landing on the three of them. Something flickered across his face, too quick to identify. "Storm's coming," he said. "Big one, we're securing the territory." Cade nodded, already moving toward the door. Riker stood more slowly, his hand briefly touching Lena's shoulder. "We'll be back," he promised. "Wait." The word left Lena's mouth before she could stop it. All three brothers turned to look at her, and she felt her cheeks heat. "How long will you be gone?" "A few hours," Damon said. "Why?" "Because I don't want to be alone. Because your presence makes me feel safe, even though it terrifies me. Because I'm starting to crave your scents like oxygen." "No reason," Lena lied. Damon studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he crossed the room in 3 long strides, dropped to one knee beside the bed, and took her hand in both of his. The contact was warm, grounding, absolute. "We will come back," he said quietly, his golden eyes holding hers. "We will always come back to you. That's a promise." Something in Lena's chest cracked open, raw and aching. She wanted to pull away, to protect herself from the inevitable pain of disappointment, but she couldn't make herself move. "Okay," she whispered. Damon lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles that felt like a brand. Then he released her and stood, gesturing for his brothers to follow. The 3 of them left, and the room felt immediately colder. Emptier. Lena pulled the furs up to her chin, breathing in their lingering scents. Cedar and storm, ice and steel, wild honey and smoke. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. The storm was coming. But inside, wrapped in the warmth they'd left behind, Lena felt something else stirring. Something she hadn't felt in so long, she'd almost forgotten what it was called. Hope. Dangerous, treacherous hope. Hours passed. The storm hit with brutal force, rain hammering against the roof, wind howling through the mountains like a living thing. Lightning split the sky in jagged white lines, followed by thunder that shook the walls. Lena tried to sleep, but every crack of thunder made her flinch. Every gust of wind made her pulse race. The room felt too big, too empty. The darkness pressed in from all sides. She hated that she missed them. Hated that their absence felt like a physical ache. When the door finally opened, rain-soaked and wind-battered, Lena sat up so quickly her ribs protested. 3 figures stood silhouetted in the doorway, drenched and breathing hard. "Storm took down a tree on the eastern border," Damon said, water dripping from his hair. "We had to clear it before it breached the fence." "Are you hurt?" The question escaped before Lena could stop it. All three brothers went still. "No," Cade said slowly, his ice-blue eyes intense. "We're fine." "Good." Lena looked down at her hands, suddenly unable to meet their gazes. "That's good." Riker moved first, crossing the room in quick strides. He sat on the edge of the bed, heedless of the water soaking into the furs. "You were worried about us." "I was not." "You were." His hand cupped her cheek, tilting her face up to his. "You can lie to yourself, little wolf, but you can't lie to us." Damon and Cade approached, flanking the bed. Damon's hand came to rest on her shoulder, his touch warm despite the cold rain clinging to his skin. Cade's fingers found her wrist, his thumb pressing against her racing pulse. "Your heart is pounding," Cade observed quietly. "Because you're all wet and dripping on me," Lena protested weakly. "No," Damon said, his voice a low rumble. "Because you missed us." The truth of it hit her like a physical blow. She had missed them. In just a few hours, their absence had felt wrong, incomplete, and now that they were back, soaked and exhausted and surrounding her, something inside her settled. "This is insane," Lena whispered, tears burning at the back of her eyes. "I don't even know you. I shouldn't feel like this." "The bond doesn't care about should," Riker said softly, his forehead pressed against hers, his breath warm against her lips. "It just is." Lightning flashed outside, illuminating their faces. Three brutal, dangerous men who had saved her life, who looked at her like she was something precious, something worth protecting, something worth keeping. "I'm scared," Lena admitted, the words barely audible beneath the storm's rage. "We know," Damon murmured, his hand moving to cup the back of her neck, "but we've got you. You're safe with us." "What if I'm not strong enough for this?" "Then we'll be strong enough for all of us," Cade said quietly. "Until you are." The storm raged outside, violent and unrelenting, but inside, surrounded by three alphas who refused to let her fall, Lena felt something shift. Not acceptance, not yet, but the first fragile thread of trust. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough for now. The days following the storm blurred together in a routine that felt both comforting and dangerous. Lena's body continued to heal. She could walk without assistance now, her ribs no longer screaming with every breath. Cade declared her well enough to leave the bedroom, and Riker had taken shameless delight in showing her around the den. It was larger than she'd realized, carved into the mountainside with rough-hewn efficiency. The main chamber held a massive stone fireplace, comfortable furniture made from wood and leather, and shelves lined with books and weapons in equal measure. Beyond were the brothers' private chambers, a kitchen that smelled of herbs and smoke, and a bathing room fed by a natural hot spring. It was a home built for warriors, but there were touches of warmth, furs draped over chairs, a collection of carved wooden figures on a shelf, small things that spoke of lives lived, not just survived. Lena found herself drawn to those details, hungry to understand these men who had claimed her. On the 8th night, she sat by the fire in the main chamber, while Damon worked on sharpening weapons at the large wooden table. The firelight cast shadows across his scarred chest, highlighting the evidence of battles won and survived. She'd been stealing glances at him for the past hour, questions building in her throat. Finally, she couldn't hold them back any longer. "Why aren't you mated already?" The question came out more bluntly than she intended. "3 alphas like you. You must have had plenty of options." Damon's hands stilled on the whetstone. He looked up, his golden eyes unreadable in the firelight. "We had offers. We turned them down." "Why?" He was silent for a long moment, and Lena thought he might not answer. Then he set the blade aside and stood, moving to sit in the chair across from her. The firelight played across his features, making him look both younger and infinitely older. Our father was an alpha, Damon said quietly. Strong, brutal. He ruled through fear and violence. Our mother was his mate, but he treated her like property. A broodmare to produce heirs, nothing more. His jaw tightened. He was cruel to her, especially when she displeased him. Lena's breath caught. Damon. We were young, too young to challenge him, too weak to protect her. His hands clenched into fists. We watched her break, piece by piece, year after year, watched the light go out of her eyes, and we swore if we ever found our mates, we would never be like him, never treat someone we loved as less than they were. What happened to her? Lena asked softly. She died when Riker was 12, just gave up one night, stopped breathing. Damon's voice was rough. Our father didn't even mourn. He was looking for a new mate within a month. Horror twisted in Lena's gut. That's monstrous, Damon finished. Yes, we killed him 3 years later, challenged him together and tore him apart. His golden eyes met hers. We took his territory, his pack, everything, and we vowed we would never mate unless we found someone who completed us. Someone we could protect, cherish, worship the way our mother should have been. Tears burned in Lena's eyes. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that happened to you. It made us who we are. Damon leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. It taught us what true strength is. Not dominance, not cruelty, but protection, devotion, the willingness to destroy anything that threatens what you love. The intensity in his gaze made her shiver. Is that why you were so angry when you found me? Because someone had hurt me? Yes. The word was barely more than a growl. Your alpha threw you away like garbage, tried to murder you to hide his pack's shame. When I saw you lying in that ravine, broken and bleeding, all I could see was my mother, another she-wolf destroyed by wolves who should have protected her. I'm not your mother, Lena said gently. No, you're stronger than she was. You survived. Damon's voice softened, and you're ours to protect now. No one will ever hurt you like that again. I'll make certain of it. The door opened, letting in a gust of cold night air. Cade and Riker entered, their faces drawn with exhaustion. They'd been patrolling the borders, a nightly ritual Lena had learned kept the territory safe. Riker's eyes immediately found her, and some of the tension left his shoulders. You're still awake. Couldn't sleep, Lena admitted. Cade moved to the table, pouring himself water from a clay pitcher, but his ice-blue eyes tracked to Damon, then back to Lena. What were you talking about? Our father, Damon said quietly. The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. Riker's expression went carefully blank. Why? She asked why we hadn't mated before, Damon explained. I told her. Cade set his cup down with deliberate care. Did you tell her everything? Everything that matters. There's more? Lena asked, looking between the three brothers. Cade crossed his arms, his posture defensive. Our father didn't just break our mother. He broke others. She-wolves from other packs who caught his eye. He would take them, use them, discard them. His voice was clinical, detached, but fury burned beneath the surface. Some of them died. Others were returned to their packs ruined, their minds shattered. Lena's stomach turned. That's why other packs fear us, Riker finished, his green eyes blazing. They think we're like him, that we inherited his cruelty, his appetite for destruction. They whisper that the sons of a monster must be monsters themselves. Are you? The question escaped before Lena could stop it. The three brothers stared at her, and for a moment, the only sound was the crackle of the fire. Then Damon spoke, his voice low and intense. We are capable of monstrous things. We are brutal in battle, merciless to our enemies. We have killed without hesitation when our pack was threatened. His golden eyes burned into hers. But we are not him. We would never harm an innocent. Never force ourselves on someone weaker. Never use our strength to break instead of protect. That's why we stayed unmated for so long, Cade added quietly. Because we knew what we were capable of, knew the darkness inside us. We wouldn't inflict that on someone who didn't truly belong with us. Riker moved to sit on the arm of Lena's chair, his hand coming to rest on her shoulder. When we found you, we knew. The bond doesn't lie. You're meant to be ours, and we're meant to be yours. Not because we want to possess you, but because we're finally complete with you here. Lena's throat tightened. She looked at each of them in turn. These brutal, broken men who carried their father's legacy like chains. You're nothing like what you described. Nothing like him. How can you be sure? Cade asked, his ice blue eyes searching hers. You barely know us. Because you asked my permission before touching me. Because you waited for me to be ready instead of forcing the bond. Because you see me as a person, not property. Lena's voice strengthened. Your father was a monster. You're not. You're just men trying to be better than the example you were given. Damon's expression cracked, something vulnerable flickering across his face before he could hide it. Riker's hand tightened on her shoulder. Even Cade's carefully controlled mask slipped for just a moment. Our mother would have liked you, Riker said quietly, his voice rough with emotion. I wish I could have met her, Lena replied honestly. Silence settled over the room, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the silence of shared understanding, of wounds acknowledged and witnessed. Finally, Cade moved to sit on the floor beside Lena's chair, his back against the stone hearth. What about you? What scars are you carrying? Lena's breath caught. She'd known this moment would come, the moment when she'd have to share her own darkness. But sitting here, surrounded by 3 men who had bared their souls to her, it felt less terrifying. I told you I was rejected by my pack, she began slowly, but I didn't tell you everything. You don't have to, Damon said gently. I want to. Lena took a steadying breath. The rejection ceremony was the 4th time I'd stood before my pack hoping to be claimed. 4 years in a row, I was passed over. Every year, the disappointment got heavier. My parents' shame grew. By the 4th year, I stopped hoping. I just went through the motions. Riker's hand moved to the back of her neck, a grounding touch. After the 4th rejection, things changed. My father wouldn't speak to me. My mother looked at me like I was diseased. The pack treated me like a ghost. I became invisible. Her voice cracked. Do you know what it's like to stand in a room full of people and have no one acknowledge you exist? Yes, Cade said quietly. After our mother died, that's how we felt, orphans in our own home. Lena nodded, grateful for the understanding. This year, the 5th ceremony, I knew it was my last chance. Our pack law states that after 5 rejections, you're considered unmateable, cast out. So I dressed in my mother's ceremonial shawl and I prayed to the moon goddess that someone, anyone, would see me. No one did, Damon said, fury threading through his voice. No one did, Lena confirmed, and the next day, my alpha took me to the cliffs. He said I was a stain on the pack, that my continued existence weakened them, that he was doing me a mercy. Mercy. Riker spat the word like poison. He pushed me. I remember falling, thinking this was what I deserved, that maybe he was right. Maybe I was better off dead than continuing to shame everyone around me. Tears spilled down her cheeks. And then I woke up here with 3 alphas telling me I was their mate, that I was wanted, chosen. She looked up at them. These brutal, beautiful men who had saved her life. I still don't understand why the moon goddess would give me to you. I'm nobody. I'm broken. I'm ours, all 3 brothers said in unison. Damon knelt in front of her, taking her face in his hands. Your pack was blind. Your alpha was a coward who couldn't recognize strength when it stood before him. But we see you, Lena. All of you. The scars, the pain, the fear. And we choose you anyway. We choose you because of those things, not in spite of them. You're not broken, Cade added quietly. You're a survivor, like us. Riker pressed his forehead against her temple. And you're home now, with us, where you belong. Lena closed her eyes, letting their words, their touch, their presence wash over her. For the first time in her life, she felt seen, truly, completely seen. And maybe, just maybe, That was enough to start believing she was worthy of being kept. The confession changed something fundamental between them. Over the following days, the walls Lena had built around her heart began to crumble, brick by careful brick. The brothers no longer felt like dangerous strangers. They felt like home. Damon began teaching her the territory, taking her on slow walks through the mountain paths. He showed her the boundaries, the hidden springs, the places where prey gathered. He spoke to her not as a fragile thing to be protected, but as a partner who needed to understand their world. Cade taught her about healing herbs, his clinical precision softening into something almost tender as he explained which plants could close wounds, which could ease pain, which could save lives. He let her work beside him, grinding roots into paste, steeping leaves into tea, their shoulders brushing in the quiet intimacy of shared work. Riker made her laugh. He told stories of their childhood, of the trouble the three brothers had gotten into, of hunts gone wrong and victories hard won. His wild energy was infectious, and more than once Lena found herself breathless with genuine laughter, a sound she'd almost forgotten she could make. But beneath the growing comfort, the mate bond pulled tighter, more insistent. Every touch lingered longer, every glance held more heat. The air between them crackled with unspoken want, a tension that built with each passing day. 10 days after they'd found her, Lena woke to find snow falling outside the window. The first snow of the season, soft and silent, blanketing the mountains in pristine white. She rose, wrapping a thick fur around her shoulders, and padded barefoot to the main chamber. The fire was already burning, casting dancing shadows across the walls. Damon sat by the hearth, oiling a leather harness, his movements methodical and sure. He looked up when she entered, and his golden eyes softened. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep." Lena moved to sit beside him, tucking her legs beneath her. "The snow is beautiful." "First of many storms," Damon said. "Winter comes hard and fast in these mountains." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the flames dance. Lena found herself studying his profile, the strong line of his jaw, the way firelight caught in his dark hair. He was beautiful in a brutal, uncompromising way, like the mountains themselves. "Can I ask you something?" she said quietly. "Always." "Why 3?" The question had been burning in her mind for days. "Why do the 3 of you share one mate instead of finding your own?" Damon set the harness aside and turned to face her fully. "In rare cases, when siblings are extremely close, when their bonds to each other are as strong as blood and pack and brotherhood can make them, the moon goddess will grant them one mate who completes all 3. His voice was low, intimate. "It's a gift. And a challenge. A challenge how? Because 3 alphas means 3 sets of instincts, 3 territorial wolves, 3 dominant personalities." His lips curved into a small smile. "We'll fight over you sometimes, get jealous, compete for your attention. It's inevitable." "That sounds exhausting," Lena said. But warmth bloomed in her chest at the thought of being wanted so fiercely by 3 men. "It will be." Damon reached out, his fingers finding a strand of her hair and twisting it gently. "But it also means you'll never be alone, never be unprotected, never be unloved." His golden eyes held hers. 3 hearts bound to yours. 3 wolves who would burn the world down to keep you safe. Lena's breath caught. "I'm not used to being wanted." "I know." His hand moved to cup her cheek, his thumb stroking across her skin. "But you need to get used to it, because we're not going anywhere." The door opened, and Cade entered, brushing snow from his shoulders. His ice-blue eyes immediately found them by the fire, and something heated flickered in their depths. "Storm's getting worse," he said, moving to warm his hands by the flames. "We'll be snowed in for at least 2 days." "Good," Riker said, appearing from the kitchen with mugs of something that smelled like honey and spices. "Means we get to keep our little wolf all to ourselves." He handed Lena a mug, and when their fingers brushed, that now familiar jolt of electricity sparked between them. Riker's eyes darkened, his nostrils flaring as he inhaled her scent. "You smell different today," he said quietly. Lena's cheeks heated. "Different how?" "Sweeter, like you're finally accepting the bond." Cade knelt beside her, his hand coming to rest on her knee. "Are you, Lena? Accepting us?" The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. This was the moment. The choice she'd been avoiding for 10 days. She could keep fighting, keep denying the pull that grew stronger every hour. Keep protecting herself from the possibility of future pain. Or she could trust. She could take the leap and believe that these 3 brutal, broken men truly wanted her. That they would keep their promises. That she was worthy of being loved. Lena set her mug down with trembling hands and looked at each of them in turn. Damon with his steady strength, Cade with his careful intensity, Riker with his wild devotion. "I'm terrified," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "We know," Damon said gently, "but I don't want to be afraid anymore. I don't want to keep running from something that feels this right." She took a shuddering breath. "So, yes, I'm accepting the bond. I'm accepting you." The effect was immediate. Damon's hand tightened on her face, his eyes blazing with gold fire. Cade surged forward, his hands framing her hips. Riker dropped to his knees beside her, his fingers tangling in her hair. "Say it again," Damon commanded, his voice rough with barely restrained emotion. "I accept you," Lena breathed. "All 3 of you, as my mates." Riker made a sound low in his throat, somewhere between a growl and a groan. "Moon goddess, I've been waiting to hear those words." "We need to seal the bond," Cade said, his clinical voice cracking with heat. "Mark you. Make it permanent." Lena's heart raced, but she didn't pull away. "How?" "The mate mark," Damon explained, his thumb tracing the curve of her throat. "We bite here, where your neck meets your shoulder. It bonds us on a level deeper than words, deeper than vows. You'll carry our scent and we'll carry yours. The pack bond between us will be unbreakable." "Will it hurt?" "Yes," Cade said honestly. "But only for a moment. Then it will feel like coming home." Lena's wolf surged forward, pressing against her skin, eager and yearning. She could feel the rightness of this, the inevitability. This was what she'd been made for. Not to be claimed by just any wolf, but by these 3. Her mates. "I'm ready," she whispered. Damon's eyes flashed. "You're sure? Once this is done, there's no going back. You'll be ours forever." "I'm sure." And she was. For the first time in her life, she was absolutely certain of something. "I want this. I want you." Riker moved behind her, his hands gentle as they swept her hair to one side, baring the curve of her neck. His lips pressed against her pulse point, reverent and tender. "We'll be gentle," he promised against her skin. Cade's hands tightened on her hips. "You might feel our wolves." "The bond will let you sense us, feel what we feel. Don't be afraid." "I'm not afraid," Lena said, and realized it was true. She wasn't afraid, not anymore. Damon leaned in, his forehead pressing against hers. "I love you, Lena. I know it's fast. I know you might not believe it yet, but I do. We all do. You're the missing piece we've been searching for our entire lives." Tears spilled down Lena's cheeks. "I think I love you too. All of you. Is that possible? This fast?" "The bond knows," Cade said softly. "Time doesn't matter to fate." "Mark me," Lena breathed. "Please, I want to be yours." Damon's eyes blazed with possession, with love, with absolute devotion. "As you wish, my mate." He lowered his head to her throat, his lips brushing over the sensitive skin. She felt his teeth, sharp and sure, pressing against her pulse. Then he bit down. Pain exploded through her, white-hot and searing. But it lasted only a heartbeat before transforming into something else entirely. Pleasure, warm and overwhelming, flooded her system. She gasped, her hands clutching at Damon's shoulders as the mate bond snapped into place with the force of a lightning strike. She could feel him, his emotions, his thoughts, his wolf. Devotion so fierce it burned. Love so deep it had no bottom. Possession tempered with tenderness. He was inside her mind, her heart, her soul. Before she could process it, Cade moved to her other side, his teeth finding the matching spot on her throat. Another bite, another explosion of pain-turned pleasure, and suddenly she could feel him too, his careful control hiding an ocean of emotion, his fear of failing her, of not being enough. His desperate need to protect, to heal, to keep her whole. Then Riker, behind her, his arms wrapping around her waist as his teeth sank into the back of her neck where it met her shoulder. Wildfire and barely leashed violence, devotion that bordered on obsession, a love so consuming it terrified him. 3 bonds, 3 souls, 3 hearts beating in perfect synchronization with hers. Lena threw her head back and cried out, overwhelmed by the sensation of being so completely, utterly claimed. She could feel their wolves, massive and powerful, surrounding her own smaller spirit with protective, possessive warmth. She was theirs, and they were hers, bound together in a way that transcended physical reality. When the brothers pulled back, blood on their lips, their eyes were blazing with primal satisfaction. Lena could feel the marks on her skin, warm and tender, already beginning to scar into permanent brands. "Mine," Damon growled, his voice barely human. "Ours," Cade corrected, his ice-blue eyes molten. "Forever," Riker finished, his arms tightening around her. Lena reached up, her fingers tracing the mate marks they'd left. She could feel them through the bond now, their presence a constant warmth in her chest. She was no longer alone, would never be alone again. "Forever," she agreed, her voice thick with emotion. And as the 3 brothers pulled her close, their scents wrapping around her like a living thing, Lena finally understood what she'd been missing her entire life. She hadn't been rejected because she was worthless. She'd been waiting for the 3 wolves who were worthy of her. 3 days of bliss. 3 perfect days where Lena existed in a bubble of warmth and belonging, wrapped in the certainty of the mate bond. She could feel her mates constantly now, their emotions humming beneath her skin like a second heartbeat. Damon's steady strength, Cade's careful devotion, Riker's wild protectiveness. She wore their marks with pride, 3 claiming bites that branded her as theirs for all the world to see. And in return, she had marked each of them, her smaller teeth leaving crescents on their shoulders that they displayed like trophies. The snow continued to fall, sealing them inside their mountain sanctuary. They taught her about the pack bond, how to send emotions through the connection, how to shield her thoughts when she needed privacy. They made love to her with reverent intensity, 3 wolves worshipping at the altar of their mate. Lena had never known she could feel this complete, which made what happened on the 4th day so much worse. She woke to find the bed empty, all 3 brothers gone. Unusual, but not alarming. Through the bond she could feel them outside, tense but not distressed. She rose, dressed in the warm leathers they'd given her, and padded to the main chamber. Voices drifted from beyond the door, male voices, unfamiliar and sharp with hostility. Lena's wolf bristled, hackles rising. She moved quietly to the door and eased it open just enough to see. 4 wolves stood in the snow outside the den, their postures aggressive. They wore the markings of the Silverpine pack, the same pack that bordered her former territory. Behind them, bound in silver chains that burned against his skin, was a 5th wolf. Her brother. Lena's heart stopped. Marcus was younger than her by 2 years, the golden child of her family. The strong son who had brought honor where she had brought shame. But looking at him now, broken and bleeding in the snow, she felt nothing but horror. "We found him on our border 3 nights ago," the lead Silverpine wolf was saying, his voice carrying across the clearing. "Trespassing. By pack law, his life is forfeit unless his alpha pays recompense." Damon stood with his brothers, his expression carved from stone. "He's not our wolf. Why bring him here?" "Because he claims sanctuary with the Blackwood pack, claims his sister is mated to your line." The Silverpine wolf's lips curled in disgust. "We thought it was a lie. Lena of the Silver Moon pack was declared dead weeks ago, cast out and destroyed for her shame." Lena's breath caught. Dead. They thought she was dead. But then we caught his scent, the wolf continued, gesturing to Marcus, and it's saturated with your pack's scent. So either he's telling the truth or he's a spy who got too close to your borders. Through the bond, Lena could feel her mate's emotions, fury, suspicion, and underneath it all, a cold calculation that terrified her. If he's her brother, Cade said, his voice clinical, and she was cast out by her pack, why would he seek her here? Marcus lifted his head, blood dripping from a cut above his eye. Because I didn't know she was alive until 2 weeks ago. Because when I found out what our alpha did, what our father allowed, I couldn't stomach it anymore. His voice broke. Because she's my sister, and I need to know she's safe. Safe from what? Riker growled. From the family that threw her off a cliff? From our Alpha's hunters. Marcus's words fell like stones. Alpha Donovan found out she survived. Found out she's mated to the Blackwood brothers. He's gathering warriors, calling in favors from allied packs. He's planning to attack within the week. Silence fell, absolute and suffocating. Then Damon spoke, his voice deadly quiet. Why? Because she's a loose end. Because she knows too much about pack business. Because her survival makes him look weak. Marcus's eyes found Damon's, desperate and pleading. Because he wants to finish what he started before she can expose him for the murderer he is. Lena felt her world tilt. An attack. On this pack. On her mates. Because of her. You could be lying, Cade said, but his tone was uncertain. I could be, Marcus agreed, but I'm not. I left everything behind to warn her, to warn you, because whatever our pack did to her, whatever my family did, she didn't deserve it. His voice cracked. And I won't let them kill her just to save face. Lena couldn't take it anymore. She pushed the door open and stepped into the snow, barefoot and trembling. All eyes snapped to her. Lena, Marcus breathed, his eyes going wide. You're alive. You're really alive. No thanks to our Alpha, Lena said coldly. But looking at her brother, broken and bloody, she felt something crack inside her chest. Why did you come, Marcus? Why risk this? Because I should have stood up for you years ago, Marcus said, his voice raw with guilt. Because I watched them break you, and I did nothing. I told myself it wasn't my place to interfere, that pack law was absolute. But when I heard what he did, when I realized you'd been alive all this time and no one cared enough to look for you. He choked on the words. I couldn't be that coward anymore. The Silverpine wolves shifted uncomfortably, clearly not expecting this family drama. The boy sought sanctuary, their leader said. Do you grant it, or do we take him back to face pack justice? Damon looked at Lena, his golden eyes unreadable. Through the bond, she felt his conflict. Trust warring with suspicion, protectiveness battling with pragmatism. It's your choice, he said quietly. He's your blood. Lena stared at her brother, at the boy who had watched her suffer and done nothing, at the man who had finally found the courage to act, even if it was too late. Release him, she said. He's under Blackwood protection now. The Silverpine wolves looked at each other, then shrugged and unlocked the silver chains. Marcus collapsed forward, his skin smoking where the silver had burned him. Riker moved to catch him before he hit the ground. If he betrays you, that's your problem, the Silverpine leader said. We've delivered our message. What you do with it is your business. They left, disappearing into the tree line with casual efficiency. Lena knelt beside Marcus, her hands hovering over his burns. Cade was already moving, gathering supplies to treat the silver poisoning. But Lena's mind was racing, her heart pounding with a sickening rhythm. An attack, she whispered, because of me. Not because of you, Damon said firmly. Because your Alpha is a coward who can't accept that his attempted murder failed. He's right, Marcus gasped, looking up at her. Donovan is obsessed with eliminating any evidence of what he did. He's convinced the other pack alphas that you're a threat, that you'll expose their secrets about how they treat rejected wolves. How many? Cade asked sharply. How many wolves is he bringing? At least 50, maybe more. Marcus coughed, blood flecking his lips. They'll come from the eastern pass. He's planning to strike at dawn in 3 days. 3 days. Lena felt the world closing in around her. 50 wolves against one small pack. Her mates were strong, but they weren't invincible. People would die. Her mates could die. All because she had survived when she was supposed to die. I should leave, she heard herself say. The words came from somewhere distant, hollow. If I'm not here, if I go back, maybe he'll call off the attack. The temperature dropped 20 degrees. Damon was in front of her in an instant, his hands gripping her shoulders hard enough to bruise. What did you just say? I said I should leave. I should go back, face him, end this before... Before what? Riker snarled, his green eyes blazing. Before you get yourself killed? Before you sacrifice yourself for a pack that threw you away? Before people die because of me, Lena shouted, tears streaming down her face. Before you die because I was too selfish to stay dead. Selfish? Cade's voice was deadly quiet. You think wanting to live is selfish? I think putting your entire pack in danger because of my existence is selfish. Lena tried to pull away from Damon's grip, but he held her fast. I'm not worth a war. I'm not worth your lives. You're worth everything, Damon growled. And if you think for 1 second that we would let you walk back into the hands of a wolf who tried to murder you, you don't know us at all. I know you're good men, strong men, and I know you'll fight to protect me because the bond demands it. Lena's voice broke. But what if I don't want you to? What if I can't live with your blood on my hands? Then you'll have to learn, Riker said harshly, because we're not letting you go. Not now, not ever. Even if it means your death? Especially then, Damon said, his golden eyes burning into hers. We told you, Lena. What we claim, we keep. That means standing between you and anyone who tries to harm you, even if it costs us everything. Lena stared at him, at the absolute certainty in his face, and something inside her shattered. You're insane, all 3 of you. Probably, Kate agreed, but we're your mates. Insanity comes with the territory. Marcus coughed weakly from where Riker had laid him. For what it's worth, they're right. Running won't stop Donovan. He'll hunt you down wherever you go. The only way to end this is to stand and fight. I can't fight, Lena said bitterly. I'm weak, useless. That's why no one wanted me, remember? Damon's grip on her shoulders softened, and he pulled her against his chest, his arms wrapping around her like iron bands. Through the bond, she felt his emotions. Fury at her alpha, fear for her safety, and underneath it all, a love so fierce it stole her breath. You are not weak, he murmured against her hair. You are not useless, and you are not facing this alone. We stand together, or we don't stand at all. Lena buried her face in his chest and wept. For the innocence she'd lost, for the danger she'd brought to her mate's door, for the blood that would be spilled because she had dared to survive. The snow continued to fall, soft and silent, and in 3 days, her old alpha would come to finish what he started, unless they could stop him first. The den became a war room. Damon called in every member of the Blackwood pack, 32 wolves in total, all bearing the scars of survival. They gathered in the main chamber, their faces grim but determined as Damon laid out the threat. Lena sat in the corner, Marcus beside her on a bench, his burns bandaged but still angry and red. She watched her mates move through the crowd with military precision, assigning positions, discussing strategy, preparing for a battle that was coming because of her. The guilt was a living thing, gnawing at her insides. Stop it, Marcus said quietly, his voice still rough from the silver poisoning. Stop what? Blaming yourself. He looked at her, his eyes shadowed with his own guilt. This isn't your fault, Lena. This is Donovan's fault, our father's fault, the pack's fault, but not yours. They're going to fight because of me. They're going to fight because Donovan is a tyrant who can't let go of his pride. Marcus shifted, wincing. I've been watching him for weeks, ever since you disappeared. He's become obsessed, paranoid. He sees threats everywhere. This attack would have happened eventually with or without you as the excuse. Lena wanted to believe him, but the weight of responsibility sat heavy on her chest. She could feel her mates through the bond, their determination absolute, their fear carefully hidden beneath layers of alpha dominance. They would die for her, gladly, without hesitation, and she couldn't bear it. As the meeting broke up and wolves dispersed to their assignments, Cade approached with a small wooden box. He sat beside her, his ice-blue eyes scanning her face with that clinical precision that saw too much. "You're planning something," he said quietly. "I can feel it through the bond." Lena's breath caught. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." Cade opened the box, revealing several small vials of dark liquid. Wolfsbane extract, diluted enough not to kill, but strong enough to suppress our wolves for several hours. His gaze locked onto hers. "You're thinking about dosing us and running." Facing Donovan alone to try and stop the attack. Lena's silence was answer enough. Cade's jaw tightened. "It won't work. Even if you managed to drug all three of us, which would be nearly impossible, the pack would stop you. They've accepted you as Luna. They won't let you sacrifice yourself." "Then what am I supposed to do?" Lena's voice cracked. "Sit here and watch you all die for me?" "You're supposed to trust us." Cade reached out, taking her hand. Through the bond, she felt his emotions. Fear, yes, but also unwavering conviction. "We've survived worse odds. We've built this pack from nothing, turned outcasts and broken wolves into warriors. We don't lose, Lena. Not when we're fighting for something that matters. And if you're wrong, if Donovan has more wolves than Marcus thinks, then we die protecting what we love." Cade's voice was calm, matter of fact. "That's not a tragedy, that's an honor." "It's not an honor to me," Lena whispered. "It's a nightmare." Cade squeezed her hand. "Then help us make sure it doesn't come to that. You're not helpless, Lena. You're our mate, our Luna. That means something here. Use it." Before Lena could respond, Riker appeared, his green eyes bright with barely contained energy. "We need to talk, all of us, now." He led them to the private chamber Damon used for strategy, where the eldest brother stood over a crude map of the territory, drawn in charcoal on a large piece of hide. His golden eyes flickered up as they entered. "The Eastern Pass is our weak point," Damon said without preamble. "It's the only route wide enough for a force of 50 to approach without being picked off. We'll fortify it, set traps, create choke points." His finger traced defensive positions. "But even with preparation, we're outnumbered almost 2-1. "We could call for allies," Cade suggested. "The Thornridge pack owes us a debt. So does the River Valley pack." "Not enough time," Damon said grimly. "They're 3 days away at minimum. The attack comes at dawn in 2 days now. We're on our own." Silence fell, heavy with the weight of impossible odds. Then Lena spoke, her voice quiet but steady. "What if we don't fight at the pass?" All three brothers turned to look at her. "What do you mean?" Damon asked. Lena stood, moving to the map. Her hands trembled, but her voice grew stronger. "You're planning a defensive battle. Waiting for them to come to you, trying to minimize their numbers advantage with terrain. But that gives them the initiative. They choose when to attack, how to attack." "What are you suggesting?" Cade's eyes were sharp, analytical. "I'm suggesting we don't wait for them." Lena's finger traced a different path on the map. "Marcus said they're gathering at the old Stone Ridge camp, right? That's 2 days' march from here through the forest." Marcus nodded slowly. "That's what I overheard. It's neutral ground, hidden, easy to assemble without drawing attention." "Then we hit them there." Lena looked up at her mates. "Before they're organized. Before they're ready. When they're vulnerable." Riker's eyes widened. "A preemptive strike." "It's risky," Cade said, but his tone was thoughtful, not dismissive. "We'd be going into unfamiliar territory, leaving our defenses behind." "But we'd have surprise," Damon said, his golden eyes beginning to glow with approval. "And we'd be fighting on our terms, not theirs." "More than that," Lena continued, her mind racing, pieces falling into place. Donovan is counting on you being defensive. He thinks you'll turtle up, try to protect your territory. He won't expect you to come to him. She's right, Marcus said, sitting forward despite his injuries. Donovan's arrogant. He thinks he's the only one capable of strategic thinking. An assault on his staging ground would catch him completely off guard. Damon studied the map, his expression calculating. We'd need to move fast, tonight. Get into position before dawn tomorrow. Strike before they even begin their march. We'd need to split our forces, Cade added. Leave enough wolves here to defend in case this is a feint, but take enough to make the attack count. 20 wolves, Riker said immediately. Our best fighters, fast, brutal, in and out before they can organize a proper response. Damon looked at Lena, something fierce and proud burning in his eyes. This is good strategy. Risky, but good. Where did you learn to think like this? I didn't learn, Lena said softly. I just know what it's like to be underestimated, to be dismissed as weak and worthless. Donovan will make that same mistake with you because he can't imagine wolves he considers beneath him being capable of outsmarting him. A slow, dangerous smile spread across Damon's face. Then we'll use his arrogance against him. There's one more thing, Lena said, her heart pounding. I need to come with you. Absolutely not, all three brothers said in unison. Listen to me. Lena moved to stand before Damon, her head tilted back to meet his eyes. Donovan is coming for me. That means I'm leverage. If he sees me there, if he thinks he can capture me, he'll focus on that instead of tactical thinking. He'll make mistakes. You want to use yourself as bait, Cade said, his voice flat. No. I want to be part of this fight, Lena corrected. You've spent weeks telling me I'm strong, that I'm capable, that I'm your equal. Prove it. Let me stand with you. It's too dangerous, Riker protested, but his conviction wavered. Everything is dangerous. Lena looked at each of them in turn. But I'm tired of being protected like I'm made of glass. I'm tired of hiding while others fight my battles. I'm your mate, your Luna. That means I stand with you, not behind you. Through the bond, she pushed every ounce of determination she possessed, letting them feel her resolve. Damon's expression was torn, his protective instincts warring with his respect for her autonomy. If you come, you stay close. You don't engage unless absolutely necessary. Understood? Understood, Lena agreed, relief flooding through her. And you train, Cade added firmly. We have tonight. We'll teach you enough to keep yourself alive. I can help with that, Marcus said, standing carefully. I'm not fit for the assault, but I can teach her some basics. Riker looked like he wanted to argue further, but Damon's hand on his shoulder stopped him. She's right, the eldest brother said quietly. We can't preach equality and then lock her away when things get dangerous. We trust her, or we don't. We trust her, Cade said, his ice-blue eyes on Lena. We just don't trust Donovan. Good, Lena said, squaring her shoulders. Because neither do I. But I know his weaknesses. I know his pride. And I know that seeing me alive and claimed by 3 alphas will enrage him so completely he won't be thinking straight. Damon pulled her close, his lips brushing her forehead. Through the bond, she felt his fear, his love, his desperate need to keep her safe. But underneath it all was trust. Faith in her strength. If we do this, he murmured against her skin, there's no going back. Blood will be spilled. Wolves will die. Are you ready for that? Lena thought of the fall, the rejection. The years of shame and invisibility. She thought of these 3 men who had seen her worth when no one else had, who had given her a home, a purpose, a love she never dreamed possible. I'm ready, she said firmly. Let's end this. Damon's golden eyes blazed with fierce approval. Then we leave at midnight. Cade, gather the assault team. Riker, prepare the weapons. Marcus, get our Luna ready for war. As the brothers moved into action, Lena felt something shift inside her. She was no longer the rejected wolf cowering in the mud. She was no longer the invisible girl waiting to be chosen. She was Luna of the Blackwood Pack, and she was done running. And she was done running. The words still hung in the air when Damon's hand closed around hers, warm and anchoring. His golden eyes held hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Then let's make you a weapon," he said quietly. Marcus led her to the training yard behind the den, the snow crunching beneath their feet. The cold bit at her skin, but her wolf hummed beneath the surface, eager and alert. Riker and Cade followed, their presence solid at her back. "We don't have time to make you a master fighter," Marcus said, picking up 2 practice staffs from a rack. "But we can teach you how to survive long enough for help to arrive." He handed her one, and the weight of it felt familiar in her hands, like something she'd been waiting to hold her entire life. "Defense first," Marcus instructed. "Block, deflect, create distance. You're smaller than most wolves you'll face. Use that. Be quick, be unpredictable." They drilled through the afternoon, Marcus calling out strikes while Lena learned to read movement. To anticipate, to react. Her muscles burned, sweat soaked through her clothes despite the cold. But with each successful block, each moment she stayed on her feet, confidence built inside her like a flame catching kindling. Riker took over when Marcus needed to rest, his approach wilder, more instinctive. "Don't think," he commanded, circling her. "Feel. Your wolf knows what to do. Trust her." He struck without warning, and Lena's body moved before her mind caught up, staff rising to deflect the blow. The impact vibrated through her arms, but she held firm. "Good," Riker said, approval bright in his green eyes. Again. They worked until darkness fell, and torches were lit around the yard. Cade stepped in last, his movements precise and calculating. "You're learning to survive," he said. "Now learn to strike back." He showed her vulnerable points, throat, eyes, knees, places where size didn't matter if you were fast and desperate enough. "You're not trying to win," Cade explained, his ice blue eyes serious. "You're trying to create an opening, to buy time, to stay alive until we reach you." "I understand," Lena said, and she did. She wasn't going to be the hero of this story. She was going to be the survivor, just like always. When midnight came, 20 wolves gathered in the clearing. The best fighters of the Blackwood pack, their faces painted with ash for camouflage, their weapons sharp and ready. They looked like shadows given form, deadly and silent. Damon stood before them, Lena at his side. She wore dark leathers that Cade had modified to fit her, a small blade strapped to her thigh. Her hair braided tight against her skull. She looked like one of them now, a warrior, a Luna. "You know the mission," Damon said, his voice carrying authority that demanded attention. "We strike fast, we strike hard, and we don't stop until Donovan is dead or surrendered. No mercy for those who threaten our pack. No quarter for those who hunt our Luna." A chorus of growls answered him, primal and fierce. "We move in wolf form until we're within a mile of Stone Ridge," Damon continued. "Then we shift and approach on foot, stealth until we're in position, then chaos." His golden eyes swept over his wolves. "Some of you may not come back, but those who do will know they fought for something that matters. For pack, for family, for home." The wolves howled their agreement, the sound echoing through the mountains like a promise of violence to come. Lena felt her own wolf rise, pressing against her skin, demanding release. She'd never shifted in front of others before, never trusted her wolf enough to let it free. But now, standing beside her mates, surrounded by wolves who had accepted her as their own, she felt no fear. Only power. She let the shift take her, her bones rearranging, her body reforming into something sleek and silver-furred. Smaller than the others, yes, but fast and agile. Her wolf shook itself, testing new muscles, and looked up to find 3 massive wolves surrounding her. Damon, black as midnight with those burning golden eyes. Cade, charcoal gray with ice blue eyes that glowed in the darkness. Riker, russet brown with green eyes that blazed with wild joy. Her mates, her protectors. Her equals. Damon's wolf pressed against hers, his massive head rubbing against her neck where his mark sat. Through the bond, she felt his love, his pride, his absolute faith in her. Then they ran. The forest blurred around them as 21 wolves moved through the darkness like flowing water. Lena ran in the center of the formation, her mates surrounding her in a protective triangle. She could feel them through the bond, their determination, their focus, their love, wrapping around her like armor. They covered miles in what felt like moments, the moon lighting their path. When they reached the outer edge of Stone Ridge territory, Damon signaled the halt. One by one, the wolves shifted back to human form, dressing quickly in the clothes they'd carried in packs. Lena's shift back was smoother than the first, her body remembering the shape more easily. Cade was there immediately, helping her dress, his hands gentle but efficient. "Remember," he whispered against her ear, "stay close, stay alive." "I will," she promised. They crept forward through the undergrowth, silent as ghosts. The Stone Ridge camp came into view, dozens of tents arranged in military precision around a central fire. Wolves moved between them, confident and unsuspecting. 50 wolves, just as Marcus had said, maybe more. But they were relaxed, laughing, already tasting victory in their minds. They thought they were the hunters. They were about to learn they were prey. Damon's hand signal came sharp and clear. The Blackwood wolves spread out, surrounding the camp in a loose circle. Lena stayed with her mates, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break free from her chest. Then Damon's howl split the night, and chaos erupted. The Blackwood wolves descended on the camp like a storm, striking from all sides at once. The element of surprise was absolute. Wolves who had been drinking and boasting seconds before scrambled for weapons, their formations breaking, their confidence shattering. Lena saw Damon shift mid-run, his massive wolf form crashing into 2 opponents and taking them down with brutal efficiency. Riker fought like something feral, all teeth and rage and terrifying joy. Cade moved with surgical precision, his strikes calculated to disable and demoralize. A wolf lunged at Lena from her left, and her body reacted exactly as Marcus had taught her. She dropped low, her blade flashing up to catch him across the thigh. He howled and stumbled, and Riker was there, finishing what she'd started. "Good!" Riker snarled, blood on his lips. "Keep moving!" The battle raged around them, brutal and primal. But the Blackwood wolves were winning. Their surprise attack had worked, throwing the larger force into disarray. Without leadership, without coordination, Donovan's assembled army was just a mob. And then Lena saw him. Alpha Donovan stood near the largest tent, his face twisted with rage and disbelief as he watched his perfect plan crumble. His eyes swept the chaos and landed on her, and she watched recognition dawn, followed by murderous fury. "You!" he snarled, his voice carrying over the sounds of battle. "You should be dead." "I survived," Lena called back, stepping forward despite Cade's warning growl. "Just like I survived your first attempt to kill me." Donovan shifted, his wolf massive and silver gray, built for power rather than speed. He charged toward her, a battering ram of muscle and hatred, but he never reached her. 3 wolves intercepted him mid-leap. Damon hit him from the side, Cade from the front, Riker from above. They took him down in a coordinated strike that spoke of years of fighting together, of knowing each other's movements like breathing. Donovan fought, his strength formidable, but he was 1 against 3, and these 3 fought with something he could never understand. They fought for love. The battle ended as quickly as it had begun. With their alpha defeated, pinned beneath 3 snarling wolves, the remaining Silver Moon warriors surrendered. Some fled into the darkness. Others dropped their weapons and fell to their knees. It was over. Damon's massive black wolf kept Donovan pinned, his teeth at the fallen alpha's throat. Through the bond, Lena felt his question, felt him waiting for her decision. She approached slowly, her body aching from the fight, blood on her hands that wasn't all hers. Donovan's wolf eyes found hers, and she saw fear there, real, genuine fear. "You wanted me dead because I was an inconvenient truth," Lena said quietly. "Because admitting you tried to murder an innocent wolf would make you look weak. Because you value your pride more than you value life." Donovan tried to speak, but Damon's teeth pressed harder, drawing blood. I should let them kill you, Lena continued. Eye for an eye. You tried to end my life, so I end yours. That would be justice, wouldn't it? She could feel her mates waiting, ready to tear Donovan apart on her word. All she had to do was give the command. But looking at this pathetic, broken alpha, Lena felt something unexpected. Pity. But I'm not you, she said softly. I don't solve problems by throwing people away. I don't measure worth by how convenient someone is to keep alive. She knelt down, meeting his eyes. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to return to your pack and step down as alpha. You're going to confess what you did to me, and you're going to let them decide your fate. If you refuse, if you try to come after me or my pack again, my mates will hunt you to the ends of the earth and finish what they started tonight. She stood, turning her back on him in a gesture of ultimate dismissal. Damon, let him go. The black wolf released his grip slowly, reluctantly. Donovan scrambled to his feet, shifting back to human form. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds, his pride as shattered as his army. You'll regret this, Mercy, he spat. Maybe, Lena agreed. But at least I'll sleep at night knowing I'm better than you. Donovan fled into the darkness, a broken alpha running from the she-wolf he'd tried to destroy. The remaining Silver Moon warriors were given the same choice. Return home and spread the word that the Blackwood pack was not to be trifled with, or face pack justice here and now. They all chose to leave. As dawn broke over the mountains, 21 wolves began the long journey home. They were bloody, exhausted, but victorious. Not a single Blackwood wolf had fallen. Lena walked between her mates, their hands finding hers, their warmth seeping into her tired body. Through the bond, she felt their emotions. Pride, love, relief so profound it made her eyes sting with tears. You were magnificent, Damon murmured, pressing a kiss to her temple. You were terrifying, Riker added with a wild grin. Did you see Donovan's face when you made him submit without even touching him? That was pure Luna power. You chose mercy, Cade said quietly. That takes more strength than killing ever could. Lena leaned into their warmth, their presence, their unwavering support. I chose to be better than what they tried to make me. You are better, Damon said firmly. You always were. They just couldn't see it. They reached the den as the sun fully crested the mountains, painting the snow in shades of gold and pink. The wolves who had stayed behind erupted in cheers when they saw the victorious war party return. Marcus met them at the gate, his face splitting into a genuine smile. You did it. You actually did it. We did it, Lena corrected. You warned us. You gave us the advantage we needed. Her brother's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. I don't expect forgiveness for standing by all those years, but I want you to know I'm proud of you, proud of who you've become. Lena stepped forward and pulled him into a hug, feeling him stiffen in surprise before slowly, carefully hugging her back. You came when it mattered, she whispered. That's enough. The celebration lasted through the day, wolves drinking and laughing and retelling the battle with growing embellishments. But as evening fell, Lena found herself drawn back to the den, to the quiet warmth of home. Her mates followed, as she knew they would. In their private chamber, with the fire crackling and the world shut safely outside, the four of them simply existed together. Damon held her from behind, his chin resting on her head. Cade sat at her feet, his hands gently massaging her sore legs. Riker lay beside her, his fingers tracing idle patterns on her arm. I love you, Lena said into the comfortable silence. All three of you. I don't think I've said it enough. You've shown it, Damon murmured, every day, in every choice you make. But I want to say it anyway, Lena insisted. I love you, Damon, for your strength and your unwavering protection. I love you, Cade, for your wisdom and your careful heart. I love you, Riker, for your wild joy and your fierce devotion. She felt tears spill over. Happy tears this time. I was rejected by wolves who couldn't see my worth, But you three saw me when I couldn't even see myself. You gave me a home, a purpose, a love I never dreamed existed." "You gave us the same," Cade said softly, his ice-blue eyes warm. "We were surviving before you, now we're living." Riker pressed a kiss to her shoulder, right over his mark. "No more running, little wolf, promise me." "No more running," Lena agreed. "I'm exactly where I belong." Damon's arms tightened around her, and through the bond, she felt the completeness of their connection. 4 souls, once broken and lost, now whole and found. Outside, the Blackwood pack celebrated their victory. Inside, 3 brutal alphas held their gentle Luna close, and for the first time in any of their lives, everything felt exactly as it should be. Lena closed her eyes, surrounded by warmth and love and the certain knowledge that she was home. Not because anyone had claimed her, but because she had claimed herself first. And in claiming herself, she had found 3 wolves worthy of claiming her back. The rejected she-wolf had become a queen, and her kingdom was built on love. Sometimes the world tells you you're not enough, not pretty enough, not strong enough, not worthy of the love you desperately crave. The voices come from everywhere: family who should protect you, communities that should embrace you, even from inside your own head, whispering that maybe they're right, maybe you really are the problem. But here's the truth they don't want you to know: you were never the problem. The people who rejected you, they were blind. They measured your worth by standards designed to keep you small, to make you doubt yourself, to convince you that being overlooked was somehow your fault. It wasn't. Lena's story isn't just about werewolves and mates and midnight battles. It's about every person who has ever stood in a room full of people and felt invisible. Every heart that has been broken by those who should have cherished it. Every soul that has been told they're too much or not enough or simply wrong for existing exactly as they are. If you've ever been rejected, cast aside, or made to feel like your worth is determined by who chooses you, this story is for you. Because just like Lena, your worth exists whether anyone recognizes it or not. You don't need someone else's validation to be valuable. You don't need to be chosen to be worthy. You don't need to shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold your full light. The right people, the ones who truly see you, won't make you beg for a place at their table. They'll build a bigger table. They'll recognize the strength in your scars and the beauty in your survival. They'll love you not in spite of what you've been through, but because of the incredible human you've become. So to everyone listening, if you're the one who's been overlooked, the one told you weren't good enough, the one who ran into the wilderness because staying meant dying a slow death of the spirit, keep running. Run until you find your pack, your people, your home. Run until you find the ones who look at you and see not your failures, but your fire. And when you get there, when you finally find the place where you belong, don't you dare apologize for taking up space. Don't you dare minimize your worth or hide your scars or pretend to be smaller than you are. Stand tall, claim your crown, own your story, because you are not the rejected one. You are the survivor who refused to stay down. You are the warrior who turned pain into power. You are the queen who built a kingdom from the ashes of other people's cruelty. Your story isn't over. It's just beginning. And trust me, the best chapters are yet to come.